Welcome to the It Factor. I'm Jimmy.
And I'm Nye.
And today we are exploring a brand new blog post by Mr. Len Kaplan.
Right, the CEO of CDML.
Exactly. They are a managed service provider based out in Queens, New York. And they offer just a massive range of services. We're talking network management, VoIP, UCaaS.
Security, compliance.
Yeah, infrastructure as a service,
Yep.
cloud solutions, and Microsoft 365 and Azure solutions. So basically, if you are a small business owner or you manage IT for a growing organization, this deep dive is definitely for you.
It absolutely is, because today we're getting into a topic that honestly usually feels like it belongs in a high-budget spy movie or, a classified briefing at the Pentagon.
Right.
But the reality is it's a topic that belongs in the boardroom of every single small business in America.
We are talking about nation-state cyber threats. And I have to admit, when I first saw the title of this blog post, Nation-State Cyber Threats, why every organization is now in the risk chain,
Yeah.
my very first thought was, okay, that sounds intense. But does it really apply to, like, a dental practice in Jersey or a small law firm in Queens?
And that is the million-dollar question, or, potentially the million-dollar mistake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The entire hook of Len Kaplan's article is precisely that assumption. Most people hear nation state and they immediately think of nuclear codes or power grids.
Defense contractors like Lockheed Martin.
Exactly. They sit there and think, well, I sell plumbing supplies. Why would a government hacker from halfway across the world care about my inventory list?
It just feels like a government problem, like something the FBI should be worrying about, not an office manager trying to run payroll.
Right. And Kaplan's thesis is that if you think it's just a government problem, you are dangerously wrong. The whole landscape has shifted. Private organizations, even the really small ones, they aren't just bystanders anymore. They are primary targets.
That is a legitimately scary thought. Before we get too deep into the doom and gloom here, I just want to remind everyone listening that if you like getting ahead of the curve with insights like this, new blog posts drop every Tuesday and Thursday, so keep an eye out for those.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Why me? Why the little guy?
It really comes down to two very specific concepts: access and leverage. Kaplan explains that sophisticated threat actors, and we are talking about highly funded, government-backed groups here, are opportunistic.
Okay.
They aren't always looking for the big kill right away. Sometimes they're just looking for a doorway.
So it's not necessarily about who you are, but who you know. Or I guess what networks you connect to.
Precisely. You aren't necessarily the target. You are the stepping stone. Kaplan describes this as the risk envelope, and there's a specific set of criteria that puts you squarely inside that danger zone.
I actually have that list pulled up right here. Let's run through it because I have a strong feeling a lot of our listeners are going to find themselves on it. First one, you are in the risk envelope if you connect to larger enterprises.
Which is pretty much every B2B business out there.
Right. Next, if you support government contractors or if you manage sensitive data.
Think about your CPA firms, lawyers, healthcare providers.
And here's the one that I think catches literally everyone. If you use cloud platforms or remote access tools.
Which is effectively every modern business. I mean, if you use Microsoft 365, if you use a cloud-based CRM, if you even just have employees working from home a couple days a week, you are in the risk envelope. You are part of the digital supply chain.
So simply existing in the modern digital economy puts a target on your back.
It really does. And we have to look at the context Kaplan provides here. He isn't just writing this in a vacuum. The article explicitly points out the current geopolitical reality.
Yeah, specifically the active military conflict involving the United States and Iran.
Yeah.
And I want to be super clear for everyone listening, we aren't taking political sides on this show. We are strictly looking at what the article calls operational reality.
And that's such a vital distinction to make. In the world of cybersecurity, you can't really get bogged down in the politics. You just have to worry about the physics of it. The operational reality is that when kinetic strikes happen, meaning actual, physical military conflict, cyber retaliation almost always follows.
And that retaliation doesn't respect borders.
No.
And it definitely doesn't respect business size.
It's the spillover effect. You might not be the enemy of a specific state, but you might just be collateral damage. Or, like we said earlier, you might be the vendor for a company they actually do hate.
Path of least resistance.
Exactly. If they can't hack the giant bank because the bank spends $2 billion a year on defense, well, they might just hack the small law firm that handles that bank's contracts.
That makes terrifying sense. So who exactly are we talking about here? The article breaks down the threat landscape into specific actors. It's kind of like a who's who of cyber adversaries.
It is. Kaplan lists out the major players you need to know about. First, you have Iran-linked groups. And because of the conflict we just mentioned, they are highly, highly active right now. Their motivation is often retaliatory.
So they want to disrupt things.
Right, they want to disrupt, destroy, or just make a point. They aren't necessarily trying to get rich. They literally just want to break your stuff.
Okay. Then there's China.
Yeah, China-associated groups tend to focus heavily on espionage. They want intellectual property. They're looking to steal trade secrets, engineering blueprints, proprietary formulas. For them, it's all about economic advantage.
What about Russia?
Russia is often about disruption and securing long-term access. They really play the long game. So they might plant a back door in your system and just leave it there for like 3 years.
Just doing nothing.
Doing absolutely nothing, just so they have it in their back pocket if they ever need it.
Wow. And finally, North Korea.
That's a fascinating one, honestly. North Korea-aligned actors are often just trying to monetize cybercrime. They use hacking to fund their state objectives. So while China might want your data to build a better microchip, North Korea might just want to lock all your files with ransomware and demand a massive payment.
So you've got a completely diverse portfolio of threats. Some want to break you, some want to steal your ideas, and some just want your cash.
Exactly. But the crazy part is they all use surprisingly similar methods to get in.
Which brings us perfectly to the how.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us still picture, a hacker in a dark hoodie typing furiously in a basement trying to crack some complex firewall code.
Right, the Hollywood version, but Kaplan suggests it's rarely that dramatic.
Yeah, the article outlines these operational attack paths, and the scariest one, because it's so ridiculously common, is identity compromise.
Because they don't hack in, they log in. I mean, why spend 3 weeks trying to break a military-grade encryption algorithm when I can just trick you into giving me your password? We all know about phishing emails, sure. But the article highlights something way more subtle, abusing OAuth permissions.
OAuth. I see that term sometimes when I'm digging into settings, but can you break down what that actually looks like for an everyday user?
Sure. Think about when you sign up for a new app on your phone or web browser. Maybe it's a productivity tool or even just a silly quiz. Instead of creating a whole new username and password, you see that convenient little button that says sign in with Microsoft or sign in with Google.
Oh, I do that all the time. It's just so much faster.
It is faster. But when you click that, a little box pops up that says, this app would like permission to access your profile, read your calendar, and access your contacts. That right there is an OAuth grant.
Okay.
If an attacker creates a malicious app that looks perfectly legitimate and they trick you into clicking accept, they don't even need your password anymore. They have a token, a digital key, that lets them access your data directly. Oh, wow. So I'm basically handing them a copy of my house key because I was too lazy to just unlock the door myself.
That is the perfect analogy. And here is the real kicker. Changing your password afterwards doesn't always revoke that key. They still have the token. And they are using this to totally bypass multi-factor authentication.
Wait, I thought MFA was the gold standard.
It's the standard, sure, but it's definitely not bulletproof. Attackers use something called MFA fatigue. They just trigger the login request over and over and over again, maybe at 2 in the morning. And eventually the user gets so annoyed they just click approve on their phone just to make the notification stop.
That is just devious. It exploits human nature, not just the technology.
Exactly. Now, the second path Kaplan mentions is edge device exploitation. This is your front door.
Edge devices. So we're talking about things like VPN gateways and firewalls.
Correct. The physical or virtual hardware that sits right between your cozy office network and the Wild West of the internet. The big problem here is that these devices are often treated as set it and forget it. Right. You buy a firewall, plug it in, and assume you're safe forever.
But they need software updates just like your laptop does. If you miss a critical firmware update, you are in major trouble. Because when a vulnerability is discovered in a popular firewall brand, these state hackers will just scan the entire internet looking for that specific model.
And if yours is unpatched, it just lights up on their map.
Like a beacon. And the article specifically warns that one exploited device gives them months of undetected presence.
Months.
Imagine someone hiding in the air ducts of your office for 3 months, just listening to every single meeting. That is what edge exploitation allows them to do.
Okay, so that's the front door. What about the side door? The article talks about supply chain leverage.
This goes right back to the vendor issue. If you use a software provider for your payroll or maybe a managed service provider that isn't nearly as rigorous as CDML and they get hacked, the attackers can just ride that trusted connection straight into your network.
The example given in the piece is terrifying. A single vendor compromise exposing dozens of clients all at once.
It's just efficiency for the criminals. Why pick 50 individual locks when you can just steal the master key?
Now, there's one more term in this section that I found really interesting. Living off the land. It sounds like a reality TV show about going off grid.
It does, but it's actually a very stealthy cyber tactic. Usually, if a hacker installs a piece of malware on your computer, your antivirus software spots it immediately because it recognizes a foreign file. But living off the land means the attacker uses the legitimate tools that are already built into your operating system to do their dirty work.
So they're using the exact same tools my own IT team uses.
Precisely. They might use administrative commands or background processes. Because those tools are supposed to be there, your security software just ignores them. It assumes it's just your IT admin doing routine maintenance.
The article mentions hidden mailbox rules as a tactic here. How does that play out?
Oh, this is a classic move. So an attacker gets into your email account. They don't want you to know they're there. So they set up a silent rule in your inbox that says, if an email comes in with the word invoice or wire transfer, automatically forward a copy to this external email address. And then, this is the crucial part, they have the rule move the original email to a hidden folder or mark it as read.
So I never even see the warning signs.
You never see a thing. You just go about your day while they're quietly siphoning off all your financial communications. That is living off the land.
That is incredibly sneaky. And finally, there's insider-style access.
Right, and this isn't necessarily the disgruntled employee trope. It's often bogus contractor accounts. Attackers might compromise a legitimate remote IT profile, or they create a fake user that looks like an auditor. Once they're inside with a legitimate-looking badge, they just escalate their privileges.
So we have all these different ways they get in. What happens when they actually do? What is the real-world impact?
It's devastating. We aren't just talking about the embarrassment of a data leak anymore. We are talking about business email compromise, where they trick you into wiring $50,000 to a shell account overseas. We are talking about massive financial loss and total operational disruption.
And for industries like healthcare or finance, there are heavy regulatory consequences too. The article specifically mentions HIPAA.
Oh, absolutely. If you lose sensitive patient data, you are looking at federal fines, massive legal fees, and mandatory public reporting. It's a total nightmare. But the quote from Len Kaplan that really hit home for me in this section was this: that ultimately becomes a governance failure, not just an IT problem.
That is a powerful statement. It shifts the responsibility from the guy in the server room fixing the computers straight to the person running the company.
Exactly. Cybersecurity is fundamentally a leadership issue now. If you aren't allocating the right resources to protect your business, that is a failure of governance.
Hey, real quick, if you are finding this breakdown helpful, maybe just a little terrifying, do us a quick favor and click that thumbs up button. It really helps other small business owners find this crucial information before it's too late.
Absolutely. Awareness really is the first step.
Okay, so we have outlined the problem, and it is a massive problem. But Len Kaplan doesn't just leave us to panic. He outlines a really clear action plan. How do we turn this risk into defense?
He provides a solid roadmap. It starts with harden identity.
Which means what in practice?
First, you have to move to phishing-resistant MFA. Not all multi-factor authentication is created equal, those simple text message codes. They're way too easy to intercept or steal. You really want to use authentication apps that require you to match a number on the screen, or even better, physical hardware keys.
And he says to remove standing admin privileges.
This is so critical. Standing means always on. If you are the CEO, your daily email account should not have administrative power over the entire network. Because if you click a bad link, the hacker gets admin rights instantly. You should have a totally separate admin account that you only log into when you actually need to fix something.
That makes total sense. Don't drive the tank to the grocery store.
Exactly. I love that. And keep a close eye on those OAuth grants we talked about earlier. Audit what random apps have access to your company data.
The second pillar he mentions is treat edge devices as critical.
You have to inventory everything. You simply cannot protect what you don't know you have. If there is an old router plugged into a wall in Warehouse 3 that everyone forgot about, that is your vulnerability. Find it and patch it quickly. Speed really matters here.
Third up, supply chain hygiene.
Document exactly who has access to your systems and enforce the principle of least privilege.
Meaning giving them only the access they absolutely need to do their job and nothing more.
Right. If a vendor logs in to fix the printer software, they do not need the password to the HR server. Lock it down.
And finally, detection and response.
You just have to assume that eventually something might get through. So you need centralized logging. You need to be able to see everything, identity, endpoints, cloud traffic, all in one place so you can actually spot the weird patterns.
Yep.
And you need to run tabletop response exercises.
Tabletop exercise. That sounds a bit like Dungeons and Dragons for accountants.
It kind of is,
Yeah.
but with much higher stakes. You sit down with your leadership team and you literally play out a scenario. You say, okay, it is 9:00 a.m. on a Tuesday. All our screens just went black with a ransom note. What is the very first thing we do? Who calls the insurance provider? Who calls a lawyer? Do we have a backup?
And speaking of backups, validating them.
Yes. The Schrodinger's backup.
Yeah.
It both exists and doesn't exist until you actually try to restore it. You have to test them regularly. There is nothing worse than trying to restore a backup during an active crisis and realizing the file was corrupted 6 months ago.
That sounds like a lot of work. And honestly, for a small business owner who is already wearing 10 different hats just trying to run a company, it sounds totally overwhelming.
It is a lot of work, and that is exactly why partners like CDML exist. Len Kaplan's article concludes with a really vital reality check. You probably won't ever get a formal letter declaring cyber war on your business. You won't see a pirate flag waving on your screen.
No, it's going to be way more subtle than that.
It will be ghosts in the machine, a weird login from a country you don't even do business in, a new user account named admin2 that nobody remembers creating, a forwarded email that just looks slightly off.
And that is where CDML steps in to help.
Exactly. They help you see those ghosts. They handle the vulnerability management so you aren't staying up at night wondering if you remembered to patch the firewall. They strengthen your cloud identity. And they align everything with all those complex compliance frameworks.
We mentioned HIPAA earlier, but they also cover NIST and NYDFS.
Right, the New York Department of Financial Services. They have incredibly strict cybersecurity rules. CDML basically helps you navigate that entire maze so you can just focus on your business.
It seems like the big goal here is to take this terrifying abstract threat of nation-state actors and turn it into a manageable, routine business process.
That is the absolute key takeaway. Kaplan ends with this thought. Cybersecurity is now operational risk management. You simply cannot separate international conflict from your day-to-day business operations anymore. The world is just too connected.
It really is. The digital distance between Tehran and a small server room in Queens is a lot shorter than it looks on a map.
In the digital world, there is no distance.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. It's scary, yes, but knowledge is power. If you want to read the full article, and I highly suggest you do, or if you're sitting there realizing your risk envelope is wide open, you need to visit cdml.com.
And definitely subscribe to their blog while you are over there. As we've seen today, the insights are super actionable and absolutely critical.
And one final provocative thought for you to mull over. Think about your vendors' vendors. How deep does that trust chain go? Go check those firewall updates. It might just be the most patriotic thing you do today. We're Jemmy and Nye. Thanks for listening. Till next time.